Happy Wednesday, everybody. If you can see me, welcome to session 1 of Soul Shift. Are we there? Yay! We are here. You are here. I am here. We are here. So happy to see you guys, and very excited for us to officially begin our work with Hecate, because that all begins tonight. How are you? It's fantastic to see you. We had some pretty exciting readings earlier, with a lot of wisdom for the collective. So if you weren't able to join us live for those, you may want to go back and watch the replay. I think you'll find something valuable in there. And tonight's going to be really insightful, especially for those of you who, for whatever reason, your health is part of the shadow work that you're doing this month. And health is a shadow for almost everybody in my family. Seriously, if you have autoimmune disease, you've got shadow stuff around health in your line. Like, there's no other way to look at it. So is everybody clear about how you find out what house is on the cusp of or what sign is on the cusp of your 6th house? Bianca did a beautiful video that I'm so super thankful for. Your incredible sister that really teaches you, like, she shows you the chart and kind of does all of that. So we're really grateful for the ways that you guys help and support each other too in figuring that out. It's pretty straightforward, and you are only looking tonight at the sign that's on the cusp. The cusp being the entrance point to the house that we're looking at. And the 6th house governs health and work. And health and work are related, because sometimes how you choose to, bring your gifts to bear in the world, and how you choose to earn a living through the use and execution of those gifts, sometimes that has a bearing on your health and your well-being or your lack thereof. And so it's really, really important for you to understand tonight. I'm really, really excited for you. Well, so this is Jessica's first class. First of all, welcome. Excited that you're here. And so I have a sample chart to show you your natal chart. This is actually Alexis's personal chart. Sorry, Alexis. Unless you wanted me to show them your personal chart. Feels kind of weird, but anyway. Your chart is like a pie, and you read it counterclockwise. So at the horizon, this is basically a snapshot of the sky when you were born. And at the horizon here, that's your rising sign, and that's the doorway to the 1st house. And then it goes from 1 to 12. There are 12 houses in your natal chart, 12 signs in the zodiac. And so those charts go counterclockwise around the wheel of your natal chart. So it's interesting, right? And tonight's one more little kind of like nugget, one more insight, one more data point to help you understand the totality of who you are. And I have some teaching I want to do tonight, and then we're going to dedicate our new tools for next month, which I'm so excited about. So I'm glad that you're here. Rachel, are you Pisces on the cusp of the 6th house? That's my placement, by the way. So if anybody else has Pisces tonight, then we have that in common. That's my health shadow is around Pisces. So welcome to anyone who's new, and even to those of you, especially to those of you who are not new. Session 1 has begun for October, and I am so excited. I posted in our group earlier today, but remember that I did these fun little enter to wins for you in our Facebook group with these gorgeous pendants. One is for emotional healing with dendritic agate and double terminated Tibetan quartz, and then the other one is Vivianite, the self-healing stone, with gorgeous green amethyst prasiolite included with goethite and a blue kyanite for balance. So if you did head to sagegoddess.com at any point today for the well offerings or the kyanite necklaces, just make sure you comment on that post and tell me whether you want the emotional healing pendant if you win, or the physical healing pendant, or if you're open to both. That's easy too. Aren't they gorgeous? So these are in the Facebook group. Little special things just for you guys today. Aren't they beautiful? That dendritic is pretty crazy. The energy of both of those pieces is really powerful, but they're super different. Like, one really is more of an emotional heart healer, and the other one really is more for the physical body, and it just kind of depends on where you are. Aw, thank you for that, Tia. I'm doing wonderfully today. I'm really loving this time in my life. I'm excited about things, and I'm seeing progress and momentum, and everybody's happy and healthy, so I feel really happy right now. And thank you for asking. It's very kind of you. And I'm grateful for us. I'm grateful for the work that we're doing. I'm grateful for how we get to do that work. And I see you guys making just real strides in your development, and it's inspiring. So all of that is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Really, truly, this is a good time in my life. You know, nothing's ever perfect, but this is about as close as I think it gets. I'm able to find joy in every moment, and I hope you are too. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about tonight. I'm going to separate my notes so I don't get confused. And I'm going to start us off with a smudge because we have to smudge. Well, you know, I mean, here's the thing. If it was easy to read for ourselves, to diagnose ourselves, to address our own problems, like, we'd all be solved and fixed. The challenge is it's much easier to understand other people, to help other people, or at least it seems sometimes, than it is to understand or help ourselves. But that's the real trick of life, is realizing that A, you can help and heal and support yourself, and B, nobody else needs your help. You know what I mean? Like, you're really not here to do anything except get to know you, develop your gifts, get strong, and get healthy. And then by doing that, that's how you help and heal the world. You know what I mean? Like, if you're surrounded by people that you're like, oh, all these people around me need so much help, usually that's a reflection of how much help you need. And then when you get really good at doing what you need to do, it's amazing how much the world around you starts to seem calmer, more orderly, more full of joy and mystery and magic, right? So it's like, empaths have this thing where we use our empathic gifts to postpone our own work because the world seems like such a needy place. But the irony is the world's only a needy place if you're needy, because the world's a reflection of you. Interesting, isn't it? Different way to look at it. Scout says, I've been feeling at a loss at what I should be focusing on this season. I'm so accustomed to shadow work being heavy lifting. It doesn't feel that way. Well, you know, in a way, I'm kind of glad to hear that, because it isn't heavy lifting all the time. Sometimes shadow work is really subtle and soft, and sometimes it happens all in dream time. It's not an active, like, I'm going to fix this, or I'm going to solve this, or I'm going to figure this out. It's not like that. It's so much of the entire process of doing shadow work is energetic. And if you let it be energetic, if you let it be subtle, if you let it be a little mysterious, and start to look at it differently, like, oh, it doesn't have to be work. We call it shadow work, and maybe that's a misnomer, because I don't know how much of it is work. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of it is shadow surrender, or shadow acknowledgement, or shadow awareness. So maybe we should even watch our vernacular around this, because when we say the word work, we automatically drift into, like, now I got to do something. But I'm not sure there's something for you to do. I think there's a lot for you to see, and there's a lot for you to explore. Yeah, Ashley Esparza, I love that. She said shadow flow, and Dawn said shadow journey. Like, ooh, and Robin, shadow discovery, right? Like, and it's okay to use fun words to describe what we're doing. Like, a shadow discovery sounds interesting, doesn't it? Like, ooh, or shadow archaeology. I've often thought of that. You know, the process of, like, unearthing the ruins of your life and gently kind of sweeping away what's kept those ruins hidden for so long, so that you can excavate, you know, and mine those hidden places and spaces for the gifts that they hold. Or shadow walk is beautiful. Shadow quest from Carla, right? Like, let's think about that. Shadow guidance from PK, right? Very, very cool. So yeah, so think of yourself less as like a worker and more as an archaeologist, or an explorer, or a discoverer, or a revealer of mysteries, right? Like, let it be that, because here's the real thing. Once you get this piece, for most people, this is like the final, like, the puzzle's always looked almost finished, but there's this one piece and they swear it's not there. And that's what shadow is. It's this, like, oh, now I get it. That's the real crux of why I keep ending up in that same friendship over and over again, or I keep meeting that same kind of partner, or I keep ending up, even though I change industries, I still end up with the same kind of coworkers or the same boss. It's like, now I get it, because this is my thing, you know? Yeah, so rename it, and you'll reframe it, because when we name things, we frame things, right? Like, okay, so, and that's why we, as humans, we want to put things in boxes. So reframe the picture. All of a sudden, the picture looks really different. I love framing things, because I really love interior design, and I love taking like a poster or a piece of art and seeing what you can do with a mat and a frame, because depending on what you do, you can either like minimize the way the art looks in a room, or you can maximize it. You can play with colors and textures. I love doing that. And I always think about, like, I have witnessed how one print or one piece, right, looks so different if you put a dark wood frame on it and a dark velvet mat on it. It's like all of a sudden it caves in, but then that piece comes to life if you put like more organic materials around it or different colors. You can change how something looks just by the way you frame it. And that's what we do with language, with the way we talk about things. That's what we do in relationships. You know, I'm in this kind of marriage, or I'm in that kind of a relationship. And then that's just like, that's how we define our reality, but it also constrains our thinking. And so sometimes you want to like let things be different maybe. And watch your language, right? Are we sharing? Yeah, I love all that stuff. I've also, like, what I've done in rooms to change a room is take a picture down off the wall and reframe it. Like, literally take it and have them put a different frame or a different mat on it. And it's like the whole room changes. And it's a metaphor for your life. It really, really is. Okay. So this month, as you know, we are not working with a solfeggio frequency, because we went through the whole range of frequencies from the 100s to the 900s. And so I would encourage you to spend this month maybe going back and rediscovering some of the original frequencies and see if there's something that comes up for you that you feel like connects you with Hecate. I like the 432 as a default frequency, because it's the source frequency, it's the God frequency, and it, along with 528, those in my opinion are two of the most powerful of the solfeggios. So yeah, so root energies would be really good for you, and root chakra work in general is really well aspected right now, because again, the more grounded and safe and held you feel, the freer you're going to feel to explore and experiment and discover parts of yourself that you haven't integrated before. 528 is the magic, I'm telling you, because that's the cellular renewal and DNA repair frequency. So that's why I had the tuning forks made in 528, because it really does do that, and it's amazing how it can clear your field, just like it can transmute impurities in water, right? Yeah, or you could drum, or you could rattle. Like, you could work with different types of sound this month too. Could be really interesting for you. So and what else did I want to tell you? We will dedicate our tools after my teaching. Your sacred geometry for the month is the dodecahedron. That was carved onto our beautiful amulet that we're going to dedicate tonight, carved by my favorite person. And so I briefly want to tell you, so a dodecahedron, dodeca in Greek is 12, and hydra is face. And so dodecahedron is a 12-faced object. So it literally describes, it's not an exotic name, it literally just describes the number of faces of the shape. And 12 is significant across our universe. Right, it's composed of 3, 6, and 9, which according to Tesla are the highest vibrational single-digit numbers. Right, so you can multiply 3, 6, and subdivide 9 to get to 12. So that's one aspect of its magic. There are 12 months in a year. There are 12 zodiac signs. Of course, 12 houses in the natal chart. So the number 12 presents itself and represents itself across nature. It reduces to a 3. 1 plus 2 equals 3. So again, it reduces down to one of the primary frequencies. And so it has this stability to it. Now, a dodecahedron is made up of pentagons. All the faces on the dodecahedron are 5-sided. So there is an energy and a frequency of completion, manifestation, and expansion within the dodecahedron that I think you're going to find interesting. And remember that November is the second most powerful month of the year for prosperity work. So as we do our shadow work, we're kind of creating a good container to be able to attract new energies, to expand our energy, to receive in November. Remember, 11 is a master number. So we're kind of paving the way for that work this month, and our amulets and the dodecahedron are part of that process. Okay, let me look at one more thing before we move on. Okay, got it. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about Hecate. So I mentioned this earlier during the readings. If you weren't live with us in the readings, I'll tell you. I was sitting down to prep class this morning. I always spend my morning of class day going back through my notes, kind of like laying out my plan for what we're going to do together. I usually spend like the whole morning doing that on Wednesdays. So I'm sitting there and it's the same process every Wednesday. I've got my coffee, I've got my notebook laid out, and I'm sitting down in my spirit guides, but I have my computer open because I usually review everything in its typed form, all my notes and everything, and add to the typed notes. So this morning I sat down and my spirit guides were like, literally put the computer away and get your notebook and a pen and lay down. And so I started to sense Hecate energy. And so I channeled a message from Hecate this morning that came through that felt very much like good wisdom for our group. And I'm excited to share it with you. I hope I can read my writing. This is what it looks like when I just channel write. And it's funny, it's a little bit different than my own handwriting. Even though I write with my dominant writing hand, I don't write with my left hand. It still like has a slightly different, but I think it's because it's fast. Like the information comes through quickly, and I'm trying to like keep up with it to write down every word. But let me tell you a little bit about Hecate first, and then I will read to you what she gave to me. It's kind of fun to show you, like a little bit of the behind the scenes. And I have dozens, probably hundreds at this point, of these notebooks laying around. And I don't know what to do with them, because when I'm done with them, it doesn't feel good to throw it away. Even though like I've already taught what's in here, and it probably already exists in another typed form too, but there's something about handwriting that's really important. So I don't know what to do with them. Part of me is like, one day, like, my kids are going to have these, like, stacks of notebooks, and they'll be like, you going to throw mom's notebooks away? I don't want to throw mom's notebooks away, right? So it's really interesting. Heidi's asking if I open a circle when I channel. I don't, depending on where I am. If I'm channeling in the two places that I channel at home, those places are it's hard to describe. They're like constantly open circles. There are these two dedicated spots that I have in my house that I don't need to clear, and I don't need to open circle or close circle there. They're like tight containers. And so those are the two places that I sit to prep class. Those are the two places that I wrote all three of my books. Like, it's a very sacred, holy kind of place. So that's a long answer to a short question. If I'm here channeling at the office, I sure do open a circle. If I'm sitting in my car and I start to feel something, I'll just use my finger. But at home, in those two places, like, they're different. And not everybody, those are not places that everybody goes in the house too. So like the energy is kind of pure and clean. How do you create something like that? You have to decide on a place in your house where not a lot of people are going to go and spend time and sit. Because if there's constant traffic in an area, like, it should be kind of an untrafficked corner. And you can set it up with a couch or a chair, or one of the spaces is a couch and the other one is a chair. And you can open a circle there. You can ask for that space to become a vortex of energy that's in service of your advancement and your development, and just ask that your guides constantly keep that place clear and open. That's really for more about intention than anything else. Yeah. It's a great question. Your bedroom can do it. You know what I mean? Wherever you have a space that really is yours. And it doesn't have to be a lot of space. And honestly, it could just be like a little tiny cushion in the corner of a room. But you're basically opening a portal. And if there's not that much traffic there, then you don't have to worry about closing it or anything like that. Okay, so Hecate. Let's go back to Hecate. So Ekkas, and this is interesting to me. You know how I feel about language. Ekkas in Greek Hekas, because remember in Greek you would use K and not C, so it'd be Hekate. Hekas, Hekas, has two different meanings depending on how you translate it. One translation of Hekas is far away, like far away from you, and like hidden in a place that you can't reach this energy. Okay, but that's not what I think. I think it's actually the second meaning of Hekas that is represented by Hecate, and that's where her name comes from. And the other meaning of Hekas means comes from far away, from far off. And to the ancient Greeks, this may have meant someone, a deity from another dimension, from another solar system, from another, right? So from far away, she comes. And I like that. Doesn't that make more sense than, because I don't think of her as far away or like inaccessible. And you could look at that and say, well, if she's one of the guardians of the underworld, then yeah, by definition, I guess she would be far away. But there's something about Hekas as meaning that comes from far away, that I guess I can understand her better there, because I come from far away. You come from far away, right? Like we're these multidimensional beings that happen to be here in this space-time continuum at this moment, but we will at some point be somewhere else, right? So from far away, right? Well, and she's a patron for a lot of us who have, because she's the first shaman. If you think about it, she is the oldest shaman in the Greek pantheon. If you translate shaman the original way that the Siberians translated that word, which just means one who moves between, one who recognizes both domains, like the living and the dead. So if you take shaman back to its roots, forget all of the stuff that we've attached to it or connotations that we've now associated with it, but if you take shaman back to those spaces, Hecate is the original Greek shaman. She is the keeper of the gateway. So let me see if there's anything else I wanted to tell you here. Oh, there's also 12 stones in the Synergy 12. I wanted to tell you that relative to the dodecahedron. Okay, so let me read to you. And you choose how you want to receive this. You know, you can like keep your eyes open and fully engage all your senses. You can close your eyes, which will allow you to hear the words in a different way. So just consciously kind of choose how you want to hear this wisdom that came from her today. Right? Very much so. Okay, so the first, I'm going to start with what she titled this. She titled this channeling to me, and I quote, "This is the gate I tend." This is the gate I tend. I am the edge, both sharp and dull, of life. Sometimes you dance with me on that edge. It can be dangerous and seductive in that way. But discernment is my other gift, and it will guide you back to wisdom when you stray, for you cannot give up your power and remain wise. Poor decisions are made in moments of weakness. I need you to be strong now, so much as passing through the gateways of consciousness, and we are teaching you new ways of being and engaging. Teaching is not the right word. We are displaying to you at a frequency you can receive if you tune in. It's a calling from us to you who also know and are wise. Keep tuning in and trust the wisdom. Notice the synchronicities. They increase as the barrier between dimensions dissolves. The ending of cycles is beautiful in its own way, a different beauty. A clarity and completion consciousness that brings the gift of release and healing what has come before. The refusal to let go, release, or surrender this is where it gets tough to read my own writing. The refusal to let go, release, surrender creates the blockages of energy that manifest as pain and illness. Dead things cannot live within what is living. One can honor the dead without incubating them. I guard both gates. You know this. Let what is alive live through you. Let what is dead be with the dead. And I will tend the space between for you. Listen for my call. I'm going to read that last part to you one more time, because that's where it felt really intense to me. Dead things cannot live within what is living. Think about it for a second. It's simple, but it's not, right? Dead things cannot live within what is living. One can honor the dead without incubating them. I guard both gates. You know this. Let what is alive live through you. Let what is dead be with the dead. I'll tend the space between for you. Listen for my call. I hope to that. Well, but think it through, Athena Mac, right? Or don't think it through. Feel into it. It was big when it came through, too. I was like, okay, that's where we're going today. One who carries, death medicine is also one who can teach how not to work with the dead. Like, working with the dead isn't always what's called for. And so sometimes, just like the hardest part of working with the living is working with the dead, sometimes the hardest part of working with the dead is working with the living. We get seduced into these sort of like, into these places. Like, we think the focus is over here, but the focus is actually over here. Does that make sense? So it's I guess for you, Athena Mac, as a death doula, right? It's like, or however you phrase the work that you do, because you have that energy stream connected to you. I think it's also about recognizing when the medicine needed is the medicine of the living. And what she was saying to me, or at least the way I translated it is, don't try so hard to navigate the duality. She is the queen of that. She will teach you how, and she'll do it for you. And so it's like a freedom or an invitation to lean more into one or more into the other, right? Team SG, I'll make sure that they have like the verbatimness of that channeling for you. Let her do her job is what I took away from it. Now, what we're going to be working with today, and this is why the gateway is so important. Yeah. Your sign on the cusp of the 6th house is going to tell you what you need to not just do differently, but let go of in order to become healthy. And some of you are carrying around dead people, dead relationships, dead energy, dead emotions. And it's like you've got them strapped to you. They're tied to your legs. You know what I mean? They're hanging off your ankles. Like it's a lot that you're schlepping around because and only you know why. Sometimes we think, and that's why I thought that channeling was so profound, one can honor the dead without incubating them. But sometimes we think like, if we aren't talking to them every day or thinking about them every day or working with their ashes every day or something, like we're not doing them justice. And it's like, no, that's incubating them. That's trying to revive them. That's trying to revitalize something that doesn't have a life force anymore. Not in this dimension and continuum. So how else can you honor them without trying to revive them? It's a really big question. And if you can find a way to do that, I think it's the path to healing but it's big. I mean, that's big. Big. So your sixth house, what we're going to talk about tonight, governs what you know about your health and also work. And the sign that's on the cusp is a little bit of a hint about what you don't know about your health that you need to know. Like what's hidden to you, what's elusive from you, what you might be avoiding or dodging or not willing to look at right now. Does that make sense? The cusp is the threshold, Bonnie. So that first line is the threshold. It is the doorway. It's the doorway in. The second line is the doorway out. The second line of the house is the doorway to the next house. Does that make sense? Yeah. Well, and it's all the medicine of Samhain too, which is picking the dead fruit off the trees. I have to go and do that. Like I've got little tiny shriveled up dead apples that didn't make it. I've got like kind of some shriveled up little persimmons that didn't make it, a couple of dead little oranges and lemons on my trees that didn't make it. You have to take that dead fruit off because the tree doesn't know. It's still trying to give energy to that to see if it'll grow. And that's how a lot of us are with the things that aren't going to grow for us anymore. Like that person who left you 10 years ago and you're still pining for them in some dark corner of your heart. And it's like, at some point, the best thing for you is to acknowledge that relationship is over. And that also allows the other person energetically to rest. Because as long as you keep holding on, it's like you almost hold on to the relationship for them. And they're probably somewhere trying to heal and release and let go and move forward too, right? I hear you. And it's not like I don't do this stuff. I'm not putting myself on a pedestal and going, oh yeah, it's so easy for me to let go of stuff. Like it's super not easy. But I also know what happens to me when I don't let stuff go. Like I end up with pain. It's easier to gain weight when I'm not letting stuff go. When I'm letting stuff move through me, it's like it just moves through, right? Okay. So let's dig into some really yummy information that's going to help you understand more about your own challenges. Okay, so what I want to tell you here, the question to ask yourself tonight is, what can I do to feel better? And I think that's honestly, that's one of the main questions that I get asked in the work that I do. Is I just want to feel better. I just want to feel more optimistic. I just want to feel more hopeful. I just want to feel less pain. I just want to feel more at peace, right? So this is really, tonight is one of the keys for that. And it's the sixth house in that way is an initiation. It's a step forward in your own personal growth that I think helps to align you with your bigger goals around what your physical body is going to look like and how it will feel, as well as what your professional life is going to look like and where your prosperity is going to come from. So there are some keyword combinations on page 2 of your notes that gives you the sign. So you write, I have blank sign on the sixth house, mine is Pisces. And so for me, my keywords are vision, compassion, and dreams. If I want to feel better, if I get depressed or angry or sad or thrown off my center, the key for me is to engage in or indulge these 3 energy streams, vision, compassion, and dreaming. And so look at yours and think about what those keywords are. If it's Aries for you, you're going to feel better by initiating some action, by demonstrating some courage, by engaging bravery, right? And don't just think about yourself here. Look at your partner. What sign is on your partner's sixth house cusp? Like that's important for you to know about your partner, your children if you have them, your parents if it's possible for you to understand. I know with a lot of our parents, getting accurate birth times is tricky because they just weren't keeping records the way we do now. And it does impact, your birth time does impact your what sign is on the cusp of that sixth house, so make sure your timing is accurate. Right? And you may think, like, I don't think of myself as a water sign person, but my job and my health, my work life and my health, my physical health, depends on me understanding water energy better than I probably would otherwise. And we often see our children show up as teachers. And people ask me, well, how is it that our kids are teachers for us? You can see, if you look in my chart and all the gaps that I have, those gaps are represented by my children. So in case I thought I was going to get off easy and not have to learn my lessons, I've got 2 human beings who literally in their own natal charts represent my deficiencies, my blind spots, my weaknesses, right? It's like, and whatever they don't take up is Dave, right? So you have to look at like the whole constellation of your family and see where your gaps are. If it's Taurus for you, the pathway for you to feel better is stability, pleasure, and simplicity. Make it easy, make it sensual, right? Get back to basics. If your sixth house cusp is Taurus, get back to basics. Get out in nature. Give yourself something beautiful to look at or beautiful to feel, right? If it's Gemini for you, you're going to feel better by communicating, by switching things up, and by getting curious about people, places, and situations. If it's Cancer, you're going to feel better by connecting to your feelings, by healing yourself, body, mind, and spirit, and by nurturing yourself and taking good care of yourself. A lot of people who have Cancer on the cusp of the sixth house have mother wound issues. And so their mother may have had hypochondria or made a big deal about health in their family, or the mother may not have taken good care of the person, and so now they're having to learn how to take care of themselves. There's a little bit of that energy there for Cancer. Leo, the keywords are expression, creativity, and performance. This is my sun sign, so that's not relevant to me, but if Leo is on the cusp of your sixth house, you're going to feel better by doing those things, by expressing yourself creatively, by performing, by indulging creativity in general, right? It's true, and everybody I know who has Cancer on that cusp really does have some kind of stress or tension in the mother relationship. It doesn't mean it's a bad relationship, but it definitely is more of an area of focus for those people than it is otherwise for others who have different placements. If Virgo is the sign of the cusp of your sixth house, then work, improvement, and health. You're going to feel better by doing better and by attending to the details of your life, and by getting to work, being of service, because that's ultimately what Virgo represents, right? If Libra is the sign for you, then it's about balance and harmony and being in relationship, and that's how you feel better. When people who have Libra on the cusp of the sixth house are in a state of disharmony, it affects them physically. It really, really does. So whereas a sun sign Libra, if there's disharmony, they won't like it, but they're not going to get physically sick from it. Somebody who has Libra on that cusp could actually feel physically sick when there's a lack of harmony around them. And here's what's interesting to me about this, and I wonder if it's interesting to you too. I know people like this. Like, they cannot stand conflict. And I'll be honest, sometimes I see like people not wanting to engage around conflict as a weakness. I have interpreted it that way in the past. I don't so much see it that way anymore. But for some people, conflict is sickening. They just can't. And so it's like learning how to respect people too who have different profiles from you, because what you can tolerate, what your constitution will bear, may not be the same for other people. And it's really important to know that. And we'll get into more of the details about it in just a couple of minutes as I'm going to drill down into each one of these signs and give you a little bit more to think about too. Interesting, isn't it? Some people don't mind conflict, by the way, but certainly for Libra, it's a challenge. If Scorpio is the sign of that cusp, then you're going to feel better when you indulge intimacy, power, and desire. Scorpio has to go deep in order to feel good. They can't have superficial relationships. It's a matter of health for them. Like, these are not serial daters. That will not be good for the physical constitution of this person. It's interesting, right, Nathan? Does that resonate with you? What about you, Danielle? Right? Like, it's very, very interesting. Now, if your cusp sign is the same as your sun sign, I think that's actually just a message to you that reinforces how important this is. That evolving into the fullness of who you are and understanding the fullness of who you are via your sun sign and via this placement is the key to your health. So it's like a double click or a double score or an asterisk or an underlining for you. Like, you really have to pay attention to this, right? And if Pluto's in your sixth house, by the way, that just represents the fact that a lot of your shadow's bound up with your health. There could be denial around your health. There could be hidden health issues. Like that just, again, it's a double click. It's a reinforcement for you. Well, jump on in, Sherry, and right now we're just going through high level, the sign that's on the cusp of your 6th house, and because that's the homework for tonight. And so we're just going through kind of high level keywords, and then I'm going to drill down into the meanings, specific meanings of each one. For Sagittarius, if that's the sign that is on the cusp of your 6th house, to feel better, you're going to have to go for adventure. It's important to your health. Sagittarian, this placement has to travel, has to explore. If this is somebody who's in a relationship and they're under somebody's thumb, that will make them physically sick. If they're bound to like where they live and they can't travel and they can't see new things and they can't have adventures and experiences, that will make them sick. Does that make sense? For Capricorn, interestingly enough, Capricorn, this placement tends to have father wound stuff. Father was sick, or father didn't care enough about health, and it can show up in a couple of different ways. For Capricorn to feel better, you need respect, achievement, and responsibility. You have to be going out there doing something, improving yourself in some way, climbing a ladder or climbing a mountain, right? But Capricorn, this placement, Capricorn has a real tendency toward hypochondria and a real capacity to... And so does Pisces, by the way, which is mine. A real capacity to like make shit up in your head. Okay. If it's Capricorn or Pisces for you, I will tell you right now, those two placements should never be on WebMD. I'm going to throw Cancer in this pile too. If you have Cancer on the cusp, Capricorn on the cusp, or Pisces on the cusp, I hereby remove your ability to go on WebMD and look up weird symptoms that you either don't probably have, or the 19 things that your one weird symptom could mean that it actually doesn't mean. I can literally make myself crazy. Well, I have a friend, Cecilia, it's really true, because everything on WebMD says Cancer. So a friend of mine said, can you imagine if you did a Control F on WebMD and you took out the word Cancer and put the word banana in instead? Like the whole website would just say banana. Banana, banana, banana could cause banana. And bananas can also cause bananas if you're at risk for bananas. Right? But again, I'm telling you, now you know. So when you have people in your family who are like, oh, I don't know, this may be it. It's just like, can I ask what sign is on the cusp of your 6th house right now? Because I think I know. And this is a personal problem as well as an astrological problem for you, right? Okay, Aquarius, in order for you to feel better, you have to make progress, and you have to innovate, and you have to do something differently, and you have to do it differently than other people have done it, and you have to do it differently than you've done it before, and it has to feel fresh, and it has to feel, right, all of that. And then Pisces, which is me, in order for me to feel better, I have to have time alone to vision and dream, and I have to cultivate compassion for others. And that's what makes me feel better about the world and in my body. Okay, you ready to drill down? So we're going to start, because the astrological wheel starts at Aries, we're going to start with Aries, and then we'll go through and end with Pisces. Yeah. Well, there's always that. Those are the challenges. All right, so let's start with Aries and go all the way in to what's happening here. So, as it says in your notes, Aries is always associated with the head. So anything related to the brain, the eyes, the teeth, your adrenaline. Aries people tend to have inflammation issues when there's Aries on the cusp of the 6th house. You tend to run hot. Your body temperature can get hot. These are people who get really flushed, like when they're talking or they get interrupted or something like that, like they get very flushed. And so because you tend to have issues with your head and face, this can also include headaches, migraines, insomnia, toothaches, acne and boils and rashes are more common, and ulcers in different parts of the body, including the stomach. All of that is indicated. It doesn't mean that's going to happen for you, but it does mean that when you have those things, it's a sign that you're out of balance. Does that make sense? It's a sign to you that this is how energy shows up in your body physically when it's blocked. And again, this is like the hidden code for you. This is what you don't know that you need to know about your health. So other people that get a toothache, they're like, oh, I got a toothache. You get a toothache? And it could actually be an energetic blockage that you're not addressing and that you need to know about. Even your pimples. Even the pimples. Oh, I'm glad you found us, Debbie. It's true. Okay. And so you need to, Aries people, because remember the sixth house governs both health and work. Aries people in this placement need to, if they can't be their own boss, they need to feel like they're their own boss. There's this issue around perception of being controlled by someone else that actually contributes to some of the health issues and challenges that you face. So the stones, which we mentioned for you to work with, fire agate is one of the best for Aries to work with because it meets fire with fire. Bloodstone's also good for you. Apache tears. Axonite is good. Axonite is a crystal that helps with pain, particularly pain at the neck and above. It's good for migraines. It's good for any kind of tension. It's good for sinus pressure. And so those are all the stones that Aries can use with this placement. And then the essential oil complex. And by the way, we're formulating this. We've decided to make sixth house blends that include 2 essential oils and 1 Bach remedy in each one flower remedy. And so the one for Aries that we're cultivating has impatience flower essence with rosemary and chamomile essential oils, which will balance this. It's almost like balancing the doshas in Ayurveda. Not fun? They're not ready yet. We're working on it right now. So that is everything for Aries. And then Taurus on the 6th house. Your health shadow is neck and throat. Lots of throat chakra issues and challenges, but all of your senses. So your sight, your ability to taste, your sense of touch. When you don't feel well, one of the things you have to notice is a dulling of your senses, because Taurus experiences the world through their senses. They're what we call the aesthetes of the world, right? They love to touch and smell and feel and taste the world. They're foodies, they're cultured, they love art, right? So when your senses get dulled, Taurus in this placement, it's a big cue to you that something is off balance energetically. You need to drink lots of water, you need to stay grounded, right? And then for work, you need stability. That's what matters to Taurus almost more than anything. They don't like a lot of agitation and instability in their relationships or at work. You need a job that's going to indulge your senses. You know what I mean? You need a job that kind of activates all of those centers within you, because again, that's the key to your health and your happiness. The stones for you, emerald, which is definitely a Taurian stone. Carnelian, which will give you the extra energy you need and get you in touch with your senses. Rhodonite, which is a heart healer. And then kyanite to balance the senses and the energies is really important for you guys. And then the flower remedy is gentian, and the eos are lemon and bergamot. And part of the bergamot medicine there, connected with Taurus in this placement, is about success through the senses, success through your capacity to indulge all of your psychic and spiritual gifts. It's true. And then Gemini is interesting. So Gemini is arms, hands, lungs, the bronchial tubes, the nervous system, and speech. So it's basically sort of here down. And a lot of the hand and arm issues, these are the people who tend to have more of the carpal tunnel challenges. They can also show up as nervous system disorders, sleep disturbances, mental stress from overactive mind is a problem here. When they're out of alignment or out of balance, they can talk too much. And they also, though, need to talk in order to heal. Geminis in this placement really do process in order to heal and to understand what their challenges are. So it can help you to clear out mind clutter by processing through language and to relieve your brain from pressure. There's a lot of pressure in the brain or intellectually for these people. This is also a placement that tends not to feel good about itself because of perceived intellectual deficiencies. Remember, this is your shadow. So what you need in order to be happy, like Aries needs to take action in order to be happy. Aries in this placement doesn't think it does a good job of that. And so what does it do? It avoids it, and then it never gets to heal it. So it's like, right? So in the Gemini placement, that's what's happening. So your for a Gemini, this lack of confidence around this can manifest as asthma, bronchitis, challenges with arms, hands, and lungs. And for work, this particular profile, and this is true of Geminis in general, they need to have a job that keeps them intellectually curious, always learning, on their learning edge. If they get bored, they'll get restless and it's over. These are really good employees until they're bored, and then you lose them. It's like this profile sort of reminds me of when I taught younger kids. I taught a 6th, 7th, 8th grade summer program for a couple of years, and I knew when I was losing them. You know what I mean? Like, it was hard to get their attention back, so I had to constantly keep stimulating them, showing them videos, and then having group work, and then an activity, and then a game to like keep them involved, because the minute they got bored, it was sort of over. It's the same thing for you guys. You need that constant kind of intellectual stimulation. And you have to watch out for that, Sherry. Like, you can't, we avoid what we think is our deficiency, when what we have to do is sort of lean into it more deeply and take our power back from it, right? So, and that's something interesting for all of you to look at that have this profile. They need to get second and third opinions. Gemini, when they get bad health news, as a kind of a rule, tend to like hear the first thing and get stuck there and just make assumptions. Like, well, that's what's going to happen to me now. So take that Gemini intellectual curiosity and get multiple opinions and perspectives. Don't just believe the first thing that somebody tells you about your health. And take that, and run with it, because that's a tendency there. The stones for all of this are chrysocolla, citrine, tiger's eye, and apophyllite, which are stones of wisdom, discernment, integration, and ascension, and communication too. And then the flower essence is Serato, which is about inner guidance, and the essential oils are sandalwood and frankincense, for learning to trust that your higher wisdom comes from a higher power. Right? I mean, I think it's for Gemini, there's this anxiety and this curiosity about, where does my wisdom come from? And do I have to be the smartest person in the room? And it's like, once they realize that they don't, and in fact, they can't be the smartest person in the room, it's like takes all the pressure off of them. And ironically, they rise to the occasion in a different way. Cancer. Yeah, so you have to learn how to get your information from multiple sources. Cancer in the 6th house is stomach, breasts, pancreas, upper liver, the womb, the rib, sternum, and all the digestive organs. This is the mother wound, right? So these are people who eat their problems, whose problems revolve around the organs that create and sustain life. They have nervous stomach. These are people who really feel that punch to the solar plexus when something happens to them. When they're nervous, they can get a nervous stomach and not want to eat food, because that will exacerbate it. So just being aware of that. If you have the Cancer profile and you're really stressed and anxious, sometimes it's not the best thing to eat, because your stomach may not be able to digest your food in the way that you want it to receive the nutrients. Since Cancer is the sign of the mother, there's a lot of mother wound healing that has to happen here. And again, that can be the mother not being mothering enough, right? Not caring enough for you when you were sick, not taking care of you, not looking after you. Or it can be the opposite. It can be that your mother was constantly like on you, overbearing, trying to do too much for you, or having her own health issues that she projected onto you, or her own weight issues that she projected onto you, right? So there's some other issues there. Cancer needs to feel cared about and emotionally really connected to their work. If Cancer loses faith in what they're doing, it's over. You know what I mean? If they find out that like their work isn't true, or the people that they work with aren't true, or that the work they do, it doesn't have meaning, they will check out. And so it's really important to keep them emotionally engaged in the work that they're doing, and understanding the value of it, and seeing that there's a higher purpose for what they're doing. They have to believe that the work they're doing is serving humanity. and in some way nurturing or bringing love. If your south node is in the same sign, then that's interesting, right? Because the south node a lot of times holds your shadow. The south node is what you're doing that might be pulling you off track. And then what this represents is what you are doing or what you don't know that might be pulling your health off track. So that's two different placements around what it means to be on track or off track, aligned with your goals and your objectives or not, right? Let's see. And so you need to honor your feelings. You need to know that as you heal your own feelings, if you have Cancer in this placement, you'll be healing everybody else's emotions too, because everybody's just a mirror of you, right? And then, so the flower essence is clematis, and then let's see. Team SG, can you list out, I don't in my notes have the 2 EOs for Leo. Oh no, I do have Leo, I just don't have Cancer. If you guys can list the 2 essential oils out. And the flower essence is clematis. The stones are ruby, rainbow moonstone, rose quartz, and brookite, by the way, for you to be working with. Well, and Amy, sometimes, and that's part of your astrological profile too, whether you look for yourself in other people's stories or you don't, right? Like that can actually be Cedar and Cypress, fantastic. Okay. I have an earlier version of your notes than you do, because I printed mine before they were updated. Okay, Leo in the 6th house shadow, heart, spine, blood circulation, vitality. Leo governs the heart, so this is a profile that can be particularly susceptible to heart concerns, heart palpitations, heart attacks, spinal issues, and so on and so forth. Also, these are people who, interestingly enough, a lot of cases of spina bifida, spinal problems in utero, are linked to this particular profile. And so this can show up also as blood disorders, also as dizziness and fainting, and vertigo is aspected in this profile. So if you notice, if you have this profile and you're dizzy a lot, that's related to what's happening here, because part of this profile is about stabilizing, centering, finding your North Star, aligning to your purpose, connecting to your creativity. Yeah, so if you have a lot of vertigo, that could partly be why. There's father energy associated with both Leo and Capricorn. So these are the 2 profiles that have father wound issues connected to health. And again, it could be a number of things. It could be that you have a lot of the imprinting of your father's health code. And so the different diseases that he was susceptible to, or the different challenges he may have had, could be similar to what you would face. That's a great question, Tammy. So no, you're only looking at the cusp sign, even if most of the 6th house is in the 2nd sign. For this work that we're doing tonight, it's only the cusp sign. Yeah, spinal issues, including curvature, including scoliosis, would also be aspected by this. And if you think about it, there's always metaphors, right? But like Leo is the sign of the spine, they say. Like Leos are very, they're tough and they're strong. Like they have a spine. They will stand up for themselves. They will stand up for other people. They will stand up for those who don't have a voice. But that's exactly what can be their Achilles heel too. And so you can see issues, central nervous issues, Parkinson's, MS, and you can also see curvature, scoliosis, and then spina bifida issues. And then, so for work, you have to be creative. You can't get stuck. When Leos feel like they're stuck, Leo in this placement, they get sick. So if they've been in the same job for 20 years and they've never had a promotion and they just feel like they're not doing things that are authentic to them or really connected to their passion, like you will see these people get sick, right? And they'll end up with back pain. They'll end up with heart palpitations. It's really interesting how kind of textbook this is. Leo people also need a lot of optimism and a lot of enthusiasm. Leos do well with this placement to spend time around children and animals who kind of get them out of their funk. Leo with this placement, it should be their own boss. That's another profile. Leo and Aries in this placement, a little bit Sagittarius too, but less so. really need to find a way to do something that's autonomous, or at least to find a job that doesn't have a lot of boundaries. You know what I mean? Where you can kind of come and go as you please. Maybe you need to be a, I don't know, independent consultant or a individual contributor, you know, as opposed to being I don't know, a member of a team, which probably wouldn't go so well for someone with this this placement. Let's see. And you're always looking for balance. So good stones are golden topaz and garnet, which will ground you. Q siren. Peridot, which is the birthstone, and then sunstone, which connects you to your patron planet, which is the sun. Blessings to that siren. And then vervain is the flower essence, and verbena, which is the corollary essential oil, and lavender. Are the notes that will be healing for this profile. Virgo on the 6th house shadow, for me, is the closest connection to Hecate. Because Virgo governs the abdomen, the intestines, the lower back nerves, bowel concerns. These are people who tend to have indigestion issues. People who tend to be afflicted by appendix issues and appendicitis tend to have Virgo in this placement. These are people who need to let go and trust the process, because the constant focus and trying to fix and trying to analyze and trying to understand and trying to, it's like it turns their insides out. This is a profile that will think it's like their food, right? They'll think it's other things when the reality is it's their external circumstances combined with their complete focus on these minor details, which can get blown up in their mind, that compromises their health. There's a real focus on eliminating waste and letting go of toxins in the body, because this profile can hold on to toxins. And so you see sepsis as something that is associated with this profile too. This profile is associated with diet and food, and so eating the wrong foods, not eating your food slowly enough, not chewing it well, can also cause physical problems too. Yeah, so Mary, you want to look at the sign that's on the cusp of the 6th house. The line between the 5th and the 6th houses, you want to see where that line comes down and what sign it touches. Did you hear the crows? And that's the sign that we're focusing on. Yeah. Let's see. You shouldn't worry so much. Worrying will... Can you hear them? So cool. In order to be happy at work, you need to be organized and efficient. You need to feel the people around you are too. You have to exercise. This is one of the only profiles where exercise, it was loud, wasn't it? Exercise in this profile really does contribute to physical health and well-being. And not every profile needs exercise the way this particular profile does. I have a husband and wife crow, and they live in that tree, but sometimes they come and they sit on we have a little skylight in the classroom, and they come and sit on it, and they're sitting there right now. I can see the shadow. So cool. Your stones are moss agate, chrysocolla, stitch-tite, and zircon. And the stitch-tite connection is not taking on other people's stuff or their opinions, creating good boundaries. Virgos with this profile need really good boundaries because they can end up picking up on the illnesses of others. They're highly empathic and they're highly connected, and they see themselves as being of service, but they have to remember to focus on their own health and not the health of everybody around them. Like this profile with Virgo on the 6th house tends to see themselves as like these wounded healers who can now heal everybody else. And it's like, meanwhile, why don't you heal yourself first before you... So the flower essence is a century, and the EOs are amber and angelica, which is protective and releasing, which is most important for you. And then Libra on the 6th house are the adrenals, kidneys, lower back, the lumbar nerves, the urinary system. These people have chronic bladder and kidney and urinary tract infections when they're out of balance. They tend to have the skin issues like eczema and psoriasis. Yeah, this is all Libra. Do I have Libras here? Anybody with Libra, the placement here, like I said, they will, they hold on to a lack of harmony in their physical bodies. And if they hold on to something too long or they get really angry, it'll show up as a urinary tract infection. So these are people who tend to have chronic cystitis. All of this can be made worse with too much sugar. So these are people who have to watch out for not just cystitis, but also candida. These are people who tend to have an overgrowth or overactivity of yeast in their bodies. Just something to look out for. Proportion and harmony and everything, balance and everything, trying to find balance without forcing yourself into a knot over it. They need to feel at work, they need to feel that things are fair and that there's equitability and that there's, that their voice can be heard and that their opinions are respected and that the relationships between colleagues are collegial. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I would say preeclampsia would be indicated here too because it's the right region. Probably a little bit more with Cancer. You're going to end up with things that would be considered complications of pregnancy would be more common among a Cancer on the 6th house, but you could have a little bit of that too here with Libra. They feel better when they're with other people. So through their healing process, this is the one sign that really does better by not being alone. A lot of people need to be alone in order to heal. Like for me to heal, I have to be alone because my placement is Pisces, which is the sign of the individual who dreams of the collective, right? This is a sign of the collective. So they, and here's what happens with this particular profile. They only realize there's a problem when it's too late. Libras on the 6th house. A lot of times because again, their focus and their priority is on harmony and unity and connection, that by the time they realize there's a problem, it's like that can has been kicked down the road. And so they end up with like sometimes larger health issues because they waited so long, or because they didn't want to make people mad, or because they didn't want to jeopardize their relationships, or because they were trying to make other people happy. And then the person who suffers in the end is them, right? So what's well aspected for this profile, go to the doctor for your annual checkups. Don't procrastinate. You know what I mean? Do the lab work and go to the appointments and follow your doctor's orders and prescriptions. That's what will help and support. So it's Schloranthus and then clary sage and opoponax are the two essential oils in the flower remedy that are helpful for this. When you, and prehnite, hypersthene, morganite, and citrine. Because again, sovereignty is a big thing for Libra in this position. They feel like they need others in order to get better. They need others in order to heal. So morganite reminds them that they have their own sovereignty and love, and that other people, other partners are just a bonus to that. It doesn't replace their sovereignty or their power. It supplements it, right? And it's noting that and reconciling that for themselves. Scorpio on the 6th house is the lower intestine, the rectum, all the reproductive organs, but a focus on the scrotum, the penis, the vagina, so the actual like bits and pieces. Colitis, hemorrhoids, sexually transmitted diseases. You guys get all the fun, not so fun things. The basement business, as it were, resides in Scorpio on the 6th house. So you have to be more concerned about STIs and other signs and profiles, but it's also probably because you're having more basement business to begin with than the other profiles. True to Scorpio, right? These are people who also get constipated and they literally can't let shit go, like even physically. These are people who spend a long time in the bathroom sometimes, honestly. Like this profile is like, it's like one thing or the other. Their bowels are either like over moving or under moving, and it's a symptom and a symbol of their emotional health. If energy's flowing well, then they're flowing well, and if energy is all stopped up, then they're backed up too. Interesting, right? They need to go deep in their work. They need to feel that what they're doing is central to the mission of the business or central to the mission of the organization. They need to feel, in corporate terms, what we call on the line. You know, they need to work on the line, they need to support the line, they need to feel like what they do makes a difference in the outcome. And they'll get very depressed and discouraged. These are not like worker bees. These are not people who are just happy to show up and just work and not feel like what they're doing is significant. Yeah, miscarriage would be here. Here in Cancer would be the two profiles where you're likely to see more complications of pregnancy, miscarriage, more severe issues. I had a friend who had a stillborn child, had Scorpio on the cusp of the sixth house. So there's a little bit of that too, like being more careful when you're pregnant, being more aware, monitoring more of your what is the cortisol levels. You know, in the beginning of pregnancy, you want to look at what is what am I thinking, that the level that you want to monitor at the beginning. You got to really monitor it with this particular profile. Now, these are people who do like progesterone. Thank you. These are people who do like and thrive on tricky relationships. They will be the ones who'll keep the drama going. There's a little bit of gossipy-ishness to this profile. And they will gossip about health concerns that people have. Like, they're very interested. They always want to know everything. But like watch that tendency in yourself. Like, why are you up in everybody's health business? Why do you want to know what their health problems are, or what you know, like, watch that, because again, that's an avoidance mechanism for this Scorpio placement. They're so focused on and curious about everybody else's health issues that they're like missing the boat and misunderstanding their own health profiles. HCG is what they monitor when you're first pregnant, to make sure that the everything is good for the baby to burrow in and grow. It's when those levels fall off, it can be a sign of miscarriage or potential miscarriage. Okay, let's see if there's anything else I want to tell you about Scorpio. So the stones for Scorpio: malachite, charoite, kunzite, dioptase. Charoite and dioptase are really important stones of going underneath the surface and understanding things on a more complex level, right? The flower essence is chicory, because chicory helps you release control, which is a big thing with Scorpio, because they feel like they can control their health somehow, and maybe even the health of other people. And then jasmine and grapefruit are the two essential oils for that profile. And then Sagittarius on the sixth house is interesting. This is hips, thighs, pelvis, the glutes, the sciatic nerve, the sacrum, all of the major arteries. So this can have, this also is somebody who's prone to rheumatism and nerve pain. It's really important to keep limber. These are people who, as they get older, can struggle with thinking of, where you get sort of hunched over in old age. It's like on the tip of my tongue. Osteoporosis. This particular profile is prone to it. And it's ironic, right? Because these are the most like active mentally and usually the most active physically people, but if they're not careful, if they don't watch it, they can end up with those concerns. That's also a concern for Capricorn on the sixth house, which governs bones. These people are also prone to breaking bones. They have to watch out for that too. These are people who are inclined to tear ligaments and to pull muscles. And so everything that is mostly bones are Capricorn, and tendons, ligaments, and muscles, things that join the bones, are Sagittarius, but osteoporosis is under both. You have to know your limits. Sagittarius on the cusp of the sixth house tends to think they're almost superhuman. Like they can do anything, they can run, they can move. It's like they almost see themselves as childlike and superhuman, which runs counter to everything about their profile. Right? And so, no, don't be scared, but just be aware. Like this is just, awareness raising for you, so that you know how to look at signs and not overlook signs, not to discount signs along the way, right? Sagittarius needs freedom, and they need to stretch and stay limber and stay mobile. These are people who do really well with yoga, again, especially as they get older. And if they haven't been exercising, if they haven't been moving a lot, they'll find that they're inclined to have muscles that sort of tighten and weaken over time more than other people. So that can be a potential challenge. They also can sometimes pick up different kinds of health and physical issues when they travel. So these people have to be more concerned about, are there diseases or certain things in the countries that they travel to that they should be on the lookout for. The stones they should work with for this profile: turquoise, iolite, tanzanite, and amethyst. These are all stones of balancing and understanding what your limits are, the yin and the yang, right? Could be why you're double jointed. I mean, this would be the one, Angela, for sure. Sagittarius would be. And I'm curious because my son is double jointed too. I haven't looked up his profile, what's on the cusp of his 6th house, but I would be interested because he's the one who always like pulls the muscle, strains the muscle, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if my son was Sag on the 6th house. My mom is Capricorn in the 6th house, which really doesn't surprise me at all. That is knees, skin, bones, and joints. Everything that holds you up and holds you in. This also includes all skin conditions, including psoriasis. This is the profile of rheumatoid arthritis. Almost all extreme arthritic cases, you can find Capricorn in the 6th house. So that's something to look for. One of the reasons you see a lot of arthritis is this is tends to be a highly repressed health profile. These are people who also tend to be hypochondriacal because it's easy for them because they're so repressed emotionally. It can show up in their body as tension and extreme pain. This particular profile, and it's interesting because I've known quite a few people with this profile, has a high pain threshold or tolerance though. So even though these people are more likely to experience pain, they're also less likely to complain about pain because they can withstand more pain than the average profile can. This also tends to be, by the way, a profile that needs more anesthetic than most when they are sedated for surgery. Interesting, isn't it? So this is the profile that can tell you literally everything that could go wrong in your body. So if you're like, and this is true of my mom, like if I were to say, well, what could possibly go wrong with my stomach? She would be like, well, let me make you an alphabetized list of the 8,000 things that could go wrong, and then we'll take an inventory of your symptoms, and then we'll draw a flow chart to describe all your possible it's like, because they like it. They kind of like talking about health problems. They like receiving pity for their health, like, oh, so sorry for you, that must be so sad for you. Like my mom loves all that stuff, and she's pretty honest about it. Sometimes she's told me in the past, like if I wasn't sick, like I wouldn't know what I was going to talk to people about, because like her health is something that she can always talk about, and then turns out if you're sick and you talk about it, somebody else who isn't feeling good probably likes to talk about it too. So it's this is Capricorn on the 6th house. They also tend to be dry skin people, and they tend to wrinkle more easily than other profiles, so that's something to look out for too. And I don't know if it's the Saturn Capricorn, aging thing that happens here, because Capricorns either age the best of everybody or the worst of everybody. But here, because in this particular profile, the Capricorn takes on this dryness thing, which can show up as like vaginal dryness, drying of the mouth, drying of the skin and the tissues, drying of the eyes. Like these are people who have to use sometimes Visine and things to keep their eyes lubricated. They need to take better care of themselves. They need to slow down sometimes. They need to not put work above their health, which is important. Capricorn has to feel a sense of authority. Even if they don't own the company that they work for, they have to feel like they care about it enough that they could. But the plus side of Capricorns in this particular profile on the 6th house is that they treat their job as if they own it. So they tend to be kind of favorited employees because they're all in. You know what I mean? It's like whatever they do, they really do it to the best of their abilities. But they need to take ownership. They need to feel like they have ownership of what they're doing. They need to slow down, and they need to let other people help them. This is another big profile of like, I can do it, I can fix it, nobody can help me. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it by myself. And the reality is, these people need people almost more than anybody else because they're a head trip. And they will talk themselves into thinking there's something wrong when there's not, unless they have somebody with a voice of reason who can. Oh, you're so funny, Cecilia. I am the manager, Karen. It's true. So these stones for them are black tourmaline, fluorite, ocean jasper, tiger iron, vivianite, right? Vivianite's the stone of self-healing, so that's well aspected. That's one of the necklaces I'm giving away today. They need to not be so afraid. These are people who tend to be overprotective parents. Again, my mom fits right into that profile. And so mimulus is the flower essence that brings courage, and then juniper, which banishes fear, and ginger, which stimulates energy and new beginnings, new ideas. Those are the 2 essential oils. So we got 2 left. Are you having fun? It's so interesting, is it? Are you kind of plotting people that you know too? It's fun to think about you relative to your partner and then your parents, because a lot of this is about how we were raised, what was going on in our house when we were children or when we were young. Oh, it's so good. Okay, the Aquarius on the 6th house is ankles, calves, lower legs, eyesight, nervous disorders, circulation, ankle and lower legs. Ankle and lower legs is Aquarius. Feet is Pisces. So issues, challenges, disorders of the... what's interesting is you can go from the signs. Aries rules the head, right? It's at the beginning of the zodiac. Pisces rules the feet. It's at the end of the zodiac. And Leo is at the heart. So you can kind of plot every astrological sign and what their primary challenge area is, because it literally goes Aries to Pisces, and it literally goes head to feet. Isn't it interesting? So I'm glad you guys are finding that useful. So circulatory problems, varicose veins, edema, blood concerns, cramping, including menstrual cramps. These are people who tend to have the worst cramps. Is impacted here. Vision impairment, losing vision early, twitching and spasms like eye twitching or muscle twitching that isn't associated with other physical challenges is impacted here or aspected here. Unusual health concerns because they're Aquarius. So if the other signs are worried something weird is going to happen, like Pisces, like dreams weird things into being, this is the sign that actually could have weird things happen. Is that you, April? Right? And Cheryl and Scout and Debbie, right? Interesting. And Christian with cramps, and Christina with running, and Santa Priya with cramps, right? Yeah, so head to feet with the astrological signs. These are people who need to stretch really well before they exercise. They do need to exercise. Their ankles can be highly unstable. So these people tend to sprain their ankles, have injuries of the lower legs, again, not feet, but of the lower legs. They need space in their job, a flexible schedule. If they can't have a flexible schedule, they need to have flexible workspace. If they can't have flexible workspace, they need to have a window with a really nice view. Like, they have to feel like they can switch it up at their job, or they're going to get stagnant and then they're going to underperform. These are people who, when they don't have that kind of inspiration, can end up doing kind of a shitty job and getting fired. That happens with this profile sometimes. Because here's the thing, Aquarius is less likely to leave a job and more likely to not do their job well until they get let go. Yeah, knees are here for sure. Knees, anything between basically the mid-thigh to the ankles is governed here. They don't like to be told how to do what they're doing, especially if they think there's a better way. They get really frustrated. If they have a boss who's closed-minded, like isn't going to listen to new ideas, or like, you don't know how it is around here, we've always done it this way, it's not going to work out for this particular profile at all. And they don't like conflict. They don't like to confront people or engage directly in conflict, but sometimes conflict resolution is the key to healing for this profile. So it's about being willing to look at challenges head on and not like pretend like they're not happening or try and dodge them. So chicory is really good because they want to like control outcomes. They don't want confrontation, but they do want to feel like they can control what happens. So the chicory is about releasing control, and then jasmine and grapefruit are the essential oils. Is that right? No, wait, I think I might have told you the wrong thing. Hold on. No, it's not. So I read you just now what was for Aquarius. No. So it is rose and fir are the essential oils, and water violet, which is for intimacy and connection, are the oils and the flower essence for Aquarius. One of the things that makes Aquarian, thank you for clarifying. One of the things that makes Aquarius really depressed, and that's the other thing to watch out for if you are Aquarius on the 6th house cusp, is you're prone to depression and sadness. And especially if you feel like you are not contributing to something that serves humanity. This is a humanitarian profile, and you like feel other people's symptoms, you feel the woes of humanity, you feel the loss, you feel all those things on a dramatic scale. And so that can cause, when you feel like you can't help people or you can't help, like these are people who in the middle of the night when those really sad animal shelter ads come on, these are the people who call in and start donating, you know what I mean, and hang the picture of the sweet little puppy that they're helping on their wall, because that's this profile. They heal by cultivating that empathy and then finding ways to because Aquarius is the water bearer, to pour that water of healing back out into the world. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, but again, because we're talking about shadow right now, and shadow sometimes is work avoidance, right? These people have to watch out for the fact that in the process of trying to help everybody else, again, they overlook their own challenges, or they avoid working on their own challenges because they have to help everybody else or heal the planet, right? So it's like, that's where the dysfunction comes in. All of these profiles have the potential for dysfunction, but the dysfunction of the Aquarian profile is feeling like, I'll go over here and help all these other people and ignore my own stuff. Did I not talk about work for Sag? Sagittarius would rather not work. Sagittarian is very hard to keep a Sagittarius employed or monogamous, for that matter. Sagittarians don't really want to work. So it's this whole thing of like, wait, I have to go do a thing in a building for 8 hours every day? Even if I don't want to? Like, how does that work? So Sagittarius needs no 9 to 5. They need a schedule that's flexible. They need to incorporate fun into their work. They need a little bit of a spiritual quality, or at least something that engages all hemispheres of their brain, left and right. But it's really true. And Sagittarians will get depressed if there's no movement, right? Because Sagittarius is the sign of movement and transition. They transform by transitioning. So if they don't have, like, if they can travel for work, that's really well aspected. I loved it. When my big corporate job before Sage Goddess, I had to travel for 1 to 2 weeks a month. And I didn't love leaving my kids because they were so tiny, and every time I came back, it was like they grew an inch. But my Sag moon was like, I told them, anywhere in the world you want to send me, I will go. And they sent me, like, they did. I was always the first to volunteer for travel, right? So, but some people don't want to travel for work at all, and so that's a different profile. So if you've got Sag on the 6th house cusp, or Sag moon, or even Sag sun, I would say you're going to be one of those people who probably is into traveling for your work and doesn't feel guilty about that at all. And then last but not least is my placement, Pisces on the 6th house. This is feet, toes, the lymphatic system, the immune system. We tend to be the autoimmune kids in the room, addiction, and then mysterious and undiagnosable symptoms. Here's what's funny about this profile, okay? Whereas the other signs worry about mysterious symptoms, this profile tends to manifest them, even though they're not worried about them. Like they'll end up with a weird thing that like nobody else has. I don't tend to have that as much. But the autoimmune stuff, the weakened immune system, or in my case, an overactive immune system, lymph node swelling, a predisposition to toxicity and poisoning, edema, bunions, funky feet issues, swelling of the feet, all of that is aspected. This is a highly addictive personality, so this is someone who needs to be careful with drugs and alcohol, because they can, for them, it can quickly go from something that seems like it's helping them mentally or physically or emotionally to becoming something that actually harms them. So not every profile has to be careful. And this is sort of a profile of somebody who isn't sure they always want to be on the planet. And so these are people who have like cultivated coping mechanisms to help them stay on the planet. You know what I mean? So they just have to watch out for those issues. Sometimes they feel like they're losing their minds, and indeed mental illness is aspected in this profile. You know, I mean, I guess we're all crazy, right? This profile doesn't see themselves as crazy as other people see them, which may be trouble for me. Like maybe I'm even more nuts than I think I am. These people have to be alone to get better. Solitude, silence is really important medicine for this profile. It's so true for me. Like when I'm not feeling well, I just want to be alone. And that's not the case for everybody. In fact, most of the profiles want someone around them when they're not feeling well, whereas I'm like, everybody out of the house, I don't feel good, and I will let you know when I feel better. They need time to dream. These are people who do really well with a flexible work schedule. Maybe a day off during the week when most people are working works really well for these people. They need to access higher levels of consciousness, but they have to learn to do it in a safe way that doesn't lead to substance abuse. These people, though, one of the risks that they run, these are the people who end up living in a forest by themselves, off the grid, in some like little mini tiny house, and never talking to humanity again. Like, that's where you see that aspected. And there are days where I think I could do that. Like, you know what? When I'm traveling sometimes and I see like really remote places, do you ever travel and see like one big house somewhere off in the middle of nowhere? And Dave will say, I don't know how that person lives over there. Like, there's nothing around them. And I look at him and I'm like, I could live there, right? Off the grid. That's a goal for this profile. They need to, the best possible job for this profile, and I'm not making this up, is a job where you help other people believe in magic. Because when this profile is able to spark joy or spark imagination or spark optimism for someone else, that is the most fulfilling thing for them. And as this being my profile, I can say that that is true. When I feel like I have helped people believe in magic or believe in miracles, because we use our inspiration or our imagination, this profile, in our work. Like, we bring all of our crazy visions and dreams and desires and intentions, like we bring all of that to what we do. And in the best case, it inspires people. In the worst case, it makes us look like we're freaking nuts. And I guess it all depends on who you ask. You can say, do I inspire you, or do I worry you about my mental stability? So there's that. Planetary healing energies are important for them. Aquamarine, blue lace agate, smithsonite's good. Such a high frequency, high vibrational material that really supercharges the intuition. This is a sign that can have tremendous sleep disturbances, night terrors, lucid dreaming, but it can get edgy and a little bit scary for this profile. So they want to this sign needs to sleep somewhere where they feel safe, and may need sleep aids to stay asleep, because when they get into those sort of lucid dreaming or active dreaming states, it can scare them. And so the rock rose is the flower essence, because it helps you to release fear. Because sometimes when that imagination goes in a dark direction, it can be overwhelming for this profile. And the EOs are Helichrysum, lavender, and alemmy. Rock rose, by the way, is labdanum and comes from Persia. And it's really, really beautiful. And that is all the way through the zodiac, from head to feet and everywhere in between, and all of the ways in which we are challenged by the different ways that we engage with our bodies, and how we project some of those fears and anxieties onto other people. And sometimes by trying to help others before we help ourselves, we avoid the actual work of integrating our shadow, right? Yeah, so Michelle asked, Capricorn here, so I need to work on healing my father wound to heal my health. Yeah. And remember that extra weight, because she was talking about mainly her weight because she doesn't have any other health issues, remember that extra weight is just dead energy. Like, if you commit to doing the work this month of letting what is dead be with the dead, like if you really heard Hecate on that, like let what is dead be with the dead and stop incubating the dead, you know what I mean? And dead energy includes energy of those who are still alive, but it's dead meaning it's not generative. So it could be old beliefs, things that you were told about yourself, or things that someone made you feel about yourself. It's like letting all of that be dead. It's not alive to you anymore. And so when you commit to not carrying it around, you give that energy permission to leave your body. But you have to get over that sort of, and a lot of us have this dissonance, this which is the opposite of resonance, right? Dissonance is disharmony between two forces. And so on the one hand, we're like, oh yeah, I'm ready to let it go. Woo, I'm going to let it go. And on the other hand, we're like, I'm not letting it go. I still hate him. I still resent him. He shouldn't have done that. And like, meanwhile, you're like, but why am I not losing the weight? It's like, because you're not really letting it go. Because you, you know, like, sounds good in theory, right? Let it go. But like subconsciously, what are you doing? Me too, man. I mean, look, this is like real talk, real time. It sounds so good to go, oh, I'm just releasing right now, and I'm just releasing. And then later that night, you're like, she's gonna get it. And I'm gonna give it to her. Right? Okay, let me go back, Carla, to Aquarius and make sure I told you accurately. So Aquarius is water violet is the flower essence, and then rose and fir are the EOs for Aquarius. So what's the best way to do that work? Meditation, crystal work, combination? Yeah, and it's, find your way into the mystery, right? Like ultimately, each one of us, I think, has a primary modality, a secondary modality, and a tertiary modality. We all have at least 3 points of entry into the great mystery. And for some people, it's crystals, because crystals calibrate your energy field. And so for some people, it's like raising and lowering energy levels with intention by working with crystals is how they enter the mystery. It's how they alchemize energies around themselves. For some people, it is essential oils and plant medicine, and that's their way into the mystery. And then some people like to combine those. And then for other people, it's sound. That's their way in. And when they work with sound, that's how they shift frequencies and shift energies. And for some people, it is just connecting, just meditating, just being in that. And I taught you the mudras, right, in our Olympia ceremony. So if you want to meditate and call in more water energy, for example, to create stronger flow around you, it's learning how to use your tools. And that's why this year I've tried to really teach you a hybrid model that incorporates crystals and sound and herbs and oils and tinctures and salves and scrubs and sacraments, because it's like an incense. I mean, what about scent, right? It's like burning the herbs as opposed to anointing with the herbs and all the things. It's like you got to figure out what your primary, secondary, tertiary modalities are, and that's going to give you a hint about what your psychic gifts are. Truly. How do you know what to let go? Sometimes you don't know, Michelle. It's a great question. Do you know? Sometimes you don't know. So ask your spirit guides. What is this weight that I'm holding? What is this energy that's stuck in, around my sciatic nerve? What is this pain in my, whatever? What is that in me that I'm not letting go? You can also make a list for yourself of who and what you resent the most in your life, because that'll give you a real flippin' neon clue about what you're not letting go. If you resent something, you're holding on to it against its will. What are you resentful of? That's going to tell you what you need to let go. It's really hard. But I mean, some people could make me a 100-item list of what they're resentful for. I'm resentful of my boss. I'm resentful of my husband. I'm resentful of my mom. And it's just like... And then I could look around your body and say, number 1 and number 2 are your thighs. Number 3 and number 4 is your back pain. Number 5 and number 6 is, the extra weight around your stomach, right? Well, Lizette, that's where it gets real. She's like, what if you love and resent the same thing? Then what that does is it forces you to refine the process and ask yourself, what is it that you resent? Because if you love and resent the same person, I guarantee you don't love and resent the same things about that person. So you might say, well, I love the way that person is so generous and so open-minded, but I resent the way that person is controlling and, I don't know, too structured or something like that. And it's like, okay, so now let's pull that apart. What you really resent is someone who's trying to control you more than that person over there. You don't like to be controlled. And so you're going to resent that, whether it shows up in your boss or your mother or your sister or whatever. Like, get underneath it. If you resent people who are mean or people who don't handle money or... I don't think hatred and resentment are the same thing. I actually think resentment is... Hatred sometimes, it's hard to heal. If you think about it, I think of all the human emotions... like the most powerful one of the continuums, I always teach you the Hermetic principles, the most powerful emotional continuum is love-hate. Because love, it can literally physically create energy and not so much create energy, but love can, nothing creates energy, energy just exists, but love can conduct energy. It can make energy flow and expand. And hate can literally destroy energy. It can destroy people. It can destroy health. Right? So sometimes I don't know how to help people with hate, because hate a lot of times is irrational. It's a hard emotion to untangle, because to heal it, you have to get to the opposite end of it, which is love. And some people, when they really, really hate, the last thing they can imagine is putting love in its place, right? Now, resentment's different. Resentment isn't as indentured as hatred. And what's the opposite emotion around resentment? It's not quite as powerful as love. Like, I think the opposite of resentment is appreciation, right? But yeah, I don't either. Sherry says she doesn't allow the word. When my kids don't say hate, because I've taught them not to, because even saying that you feel that way about something, it opens a really powerful portal, just as powerful as if you say, I love you. And that creates its own portal. So what I've taught my kids is that's not an emotion that we can work with. Let's give it a more accurate name. Because a lot of times when we say we H something, what we really mean is we don't enjoy it, or we don't feel comfortable with it, or we don't recognize it. But it's like, that word is not a word that is generative in any way. And it doesn't even help. I mean, it's not even an accurate word to use to describe how you feel about something, because it's almost a no feeling. It's the lowest possible feeling you can have, right? Yeah, so like, let's call it what it is. Hate's too easy, And have you ever noticed when people use that word, they're using it quickly and kind of like brashly? Like, oh, I hate that. It's like, really? You kind of don't. I mean, really? Right? Yeah, well, and so if you heard that word from a parent, now we have something that we can work with, right? Because if that word was shared with you from someone who, in theory, can't even access that emotion for you, that's where you can really get in and move and shift some of that around, right? And recognize that most of the time when people use that word, that's not how they feel. What it represents is their inability to really get in touch with what they actually feel, and that's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong to deserve that. And so it's more about coming to terms with how inaccurate that is, right? Yeah. Your questions are fantastic. Let's take a few minutes here and dedicate our tools for October, because that's very important. I'm going to move my mesa over. Hope you guys had fun tonight. So we're going to dedicate our tools, and then we're going to be complete for session 1 for a couple of days. Move this here. So much going on here now, because every month we add and we expand what we're doing. Yeah, so we're going to activate our grid tonight. You guys have requested that a couple of times, and I couldn't do it last month because I was traveling. So tonight we're going to set up our grid at your request. So have that out and ready if you would like. And we're going to begin in the east as we always do. I want to go through all of the ingredients that we have together. So the herbs that we are working with in your formal packages are mullein leaf, rosemary, mugwort, and dandelion. And then you have a couple of extra little goodies in your smaller bags. So we're going to be dedicating these as well. So we'll begin here giving thanks to these mother plants, mother trees for cue siren. Happens every time. Forgiving of their leaves and their flowers and their fruits and their resins for us for our work this month. We want to dedicate and give thanks to, I'm going to be using my water sacrament again this month. So if you have yours and you're going to be using it, just giving thanks and dedicating that medicine as well. I'm so excited about the transformation candle. It's my favorite one that we've worked with so far this year, so I hope you're excited about that too. As we light this candle, we call on Goddess Hecate to help us look deep in the darkness and find the pieces of ourselves that we've lost. With the night as my guide, I acknowledge what I can't yet see with my 5 mortal senses and trust in my wise intuition. Lead me, mysterious Hecate, into the shadows, where through my transformation I will be set free into the light. Amen, aho, and so it is. I'm going to light our candle for the first time. So excited. And then we have all of our oils for this month. We have black currant seed as our carrier oil, which you're going to love. I cannot wait to introduce you to these herbs and oils. This may end up being, and I say this every month, but this may end up being my favorite perfume. I love cypress. I'm Greek. Cypress was the tree of the dead, the tree of the oracle at Delphi. Narcissus, also connected to ancient Greek mythology. We think of Narcissus as a bad thing, and Narcissus energy as being sort of narcissistic and self-serving and aggrandizing, but actually Narcissus teaches us how to see ourselves clearly. And then benzoin, which is going to balance those two and make one of the most beautiful perfumes we have ever made, so get excited about that. If you liked August and September perfumes, which I'm obsessed with both, then you're about to get really excited about what we're going to do this month. Giving thanks for our perfume bottle. Oh, I got oils on my hands. So good. Shadow Shift candle. Giving thanks for our beautiful mini mesa carved out of Mystic Gabbro or Merlinite. Our mini mesa disc is Hecate's Labyrinth, as you see, beautifully translated by Gabriel. And then giving thanks for our stone tools this month. You have an obsidian arrowhead as your free gift this month. We're going to be using this to narrow cords. If you'd like to cut cords this month, you can. And then giving thanks for the crystals in our grid, including our Merlinite pyramid in the center. We have 2 pieces of chrysoprase, 4 pieces of Botswana agate, 4 quartz points for expansion and magnification, and then 4 pieces of clinozoisite. And I'll be teaching you about those beauties when we meet on Friday for session 2. And then giving thanks for our amulets, for the medicine of the dodecahedron, 12-sided, 12-faced magic, echoing the number of stones in the Synergy 12, the number of months in the year, the number of astrological signs in the zodiac wheel. On that goes. So beautiful, isn't it? Trying to think if there's anything here that I did not acknowledge. I think everything has been accounted for. Oh, yes, for the White Walkers in your life. Your Botswana agate looks like this. They have lots of little doorways in them. Your clinozoisite is like a pinkish green. Your chrysoprase is the brighter green, and then your quartz points are your quartz points. So we'll activate our mini mesa at session 2, but let's go ahead and activate our grid now so it begins to hold the energy of the work that we're doing. Yeah, there's only 2 clinozoisites. That's the rarest stone that I offered to you. It actually comes from, it's related to epidote, which probably won't surprise you when you take a look at it. But clinozoisite is really, really rare and hard to find. And we actually bought it in Tucson for this mesa. Can you believe it? We've been holding on to those clinozoisites since February. So we begin in the center. Giving thanks for the mystery and magic of the month ahead. And with Mystic Merlinite, Mystic Gabbro, Stone of the Wizard, Stone of Deeper Insight, Stone of Hecate herself, of course, and then out to Quartz for magnification and back to the Merlinite for mystery, out to Botswana agate for happiness, manifestation, expansion, duality, back to Merlinite for mystery and magic, out to chrysoprase for heart healing, and then back to Merlinite for mystery and magic, out to quartz for magnification, back to Merlinite for magic, out to Botswana agate for peace, beauty, back to Merlinite for magic, then to clinozoisite for heart opening and heart healing, release of heartbreak and sorrow, and back to Merlinite for magic, out to quartz for magnification, and back to Merlinite for magic, out to Botswana agate for beauty and expansion, back to Merlinite for magic, to chrysoprase for heart healing, Merlinite for magic, out to quartz for magnification, back to Merlinite for magic, out to Botswana agate for beauty and expansion, back to Merlinite for magic, back to clinozoisite for heart healing and opening, and the manifesting of the release of grief and sorrow, back to Merlinite for magic. And so our grid is activated for the month ahead. Beautifully done. Our tools are dedicated as we prepare for the work ahead. Amen aho, so it is. And I'm going to open our circle at 5:55. Our work for tonight is complete. Our tools are dedicated. We are prepared. Everything is in its place. So this month we're doing a different kind of bath offering. And so what we're going to be making is, instead of a scrub, and the only thing you're going to have to add to this kit to do the final version of the craft is a little bit of salt. You can use regular sea salt, you can use coarse salt, you can use fine salt, you can use Himalayan sea salt or Himalayan pink salt, but you're going to be making a soak, a border soak, for work when you are between the worlds, to keep you safe, to keep you protected. Each one of the small packets represents one of the 4 directions. And you have charcoal in here too, which is going to further activate that blend. And then I'm going to encourage you to add the mugwort, the dandelion, the mullein, and the rosemary into that soak as well. So this is going to be more of a purifying, releasing, and protecting blend, whereas what the bath scrub that we made with Aphrodite was more for attracting, calling in beauty, and sweetening, right? So so there should be a little brown jar in your kit, I believe, Team SG. There should be these 4 little packets and then a little brown jar. It's gonna be fun. No jar? So Team SG, can you let me know? Because I have a jar on my Mesa. I don't think it's BYO jar, but we'll have to find out. It may be BYO jar. But I think we did intend to include one. So sit tight, we'll figure that part out. No jar, it's universal no jar. So Team SG, I'm sure they're probably looking into this now to try and find out. And we'll keep you posted and let you know. Yeah, there's a little, this is the jar that was in my Mesa, so we'll figure out what happened with the jars for you. So the symbol, in case you missed the beginning of tonight's class, is the dodecahedron. If you want to learn about what the dodecahedron represents, you should go back to the beginning of class tonight. It was probably the first 15 minutes or so where I talked about the symbol and what it represents. Okay, so stay tuned. And we will clarify that for you guys. I hope. Did you get a little tiny CBD? I think you were supposed to, but then it's mine isn't here. I don't know. So I don't have CBD, but you do. I have a jar, but you don't. So we'll figure this all out and let you know. Yeah, the idea is that you're going to put that CBD into your bath and it's going to relax you for when you're crossing the veil. And if you haven't worked with CBD before, then that's exciting for you. You get to try something new that maybe you haven't tried before. I wonder if my CBD is in my jar. No, we'll figure it out. I'm glad you're excited about it. All right, you guys, so thank you for being here. It was awesome to be with you. I can't believe we finished right on time. Somehow that happens, and it's always a miracle. I loved being with you. Yeah, it's perfect for anemia. It'll actually really help you support circulation, so you'll be in a good place. So we have session 2 on Friday, when we will work with our herbs, be making our perfume, activate our mini mesa, and onward. And then yes, these are, you have until midnight to enter to win the 2 necklaces. This is the Vivianite with Prasiolite, Goethite, and Kyanite. And then this is the Dendritic Agate with double terminated Tibetan quartz point. So these are the ones that you're commenting on in the group, and I'll go in and make sure to bump that so you can find it. What I recommend is the Denver Well offering, but those are almost gone. If you want a Denver Well offering, it's funny, our community has grown, but we don't offer more than we used to because it really does take a lot of time to put well offerings together. And if you don't want to know what a well offering is, you basically can write us a novel about what's going on in your life, and you guys might find it really helpful because you can tell the whole story of this is my shadow that I'm working on, these are the challenges that I'm facing, and then we customize everything for you, including that that uses Denver gemstones. So that's something for you to consider in the shop if you want. All right, you guys, have a beautiful evening. I really enjoyed our class tonight, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on Friday. Tomorrow we have, what do we have tomorrow? Oh, it's our, actually, Friday we have our bonus class. Tomorrow we have, actually I don't think we have anything together tomorrow. But Friday we have our bonus class, and then we have Soul Shift 2. So we're making our shadow cards on Friday from 3 to 3:30. Then we have class from 4 to 6. And I'll look forward to seeing you then. I love you guys too. I'll see you Friday. Yeah, no frequencies this month, Rosie. What I shared at the beginning was, because we've gone through most of the solfeggios, I'd love to see you go back and work with a frequency that you liked before and continue your work with that one. And my recommendations were 432 and 528. Those are my 2 favorite of the solfeggios, but whatever you love is probably good medicine for you. So work with a frequency that resonates for you. For the bonus class, it depends. Mary, I'm glad you asked. She's asking what supplies you need for the bonus class. You're basically making a little like a little, what do they call it for law of attraction? Like almost like the board, the vision board. But this is going to be a representation of your shadow. So clippings from magazines, art from online. If you have a shadow goddess and you have a picture of her that you love, if you have a picture of yourself that's kind of shadowy, you can incorporate that too. Images of you that say shadow to you, you can put on there. And then we're going to arrange them together, set an intention, build them together. So don't overcomplicate it, you know what I mean? You can bring crystals, you can make it 3D, whatever you want to do, but I just want you to have a little card or a little image that you can frame and put on your altar every year that you look at and say, that's shadow season. And I think when you hand make it, you know what I mean? I think it's going to have more meaning to you. So I wanted to take half an hour out to show you mine and tell you the story. And then I'm going to make a new one with you this year. It's nice to add new things to your shadow altar as you go too. All right, you guys. Well, lots of love to you. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. And I look forward to seeing you on Friday. Take care. Oh, your audio, by the way, the integration, I'm going to re-record that tomorrow. I recorded the most beautiful second half of our integration. And at the hour mark, the QuickTime shut down and deleted the audio. I told you guys this earlier, but some of you don't know or weren't there. And I literally cried. Like, I thought it was such good teaching, and it was like so spirit guided. And the whole thing was gone, just deleted. So I finally have like the motivation to sit down and try part 2 of that, and I will upload that for you guys tomorrow, probably by the end of the day, and then post the link for you. All right, you guys, thanks for being here. I look forward to seeing you Friday. See you soon.